Good morning, and thank you for joining Resilient You with Alicia Pozsony. On our show, we have guests each week that talk about topics of resilience. This week, I'm so excited to have someone who is very special, and I think she's going to really share a lot of good insight and information, as well as we get to learn about her personal story. She has a journey that she is going to share with us. So, Lynne, thank you for joining us on Resilient
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So, Michelle, you have a story that involves your personal and professional life. Would you mind jumping right out of the gate and telling our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So I'm a Canadian pianist who lives in the Netherlands, right beside the Belgian border. And I moved over here 10 years ago now to pursue a career as a classical pianist. And very quickly encountered the challenges of being a transplant and having to start your career and life over from scratch without knowing anyone, without knowing the language or the culture. And at the same time, I left my university. I finished my master's degree. And so it was just like a total culture shock, as well as a personal shock, to leave that safe bubble of people who understand you and to kind of get thrown into the real world. So through lots of trial and error and different things, I've managed to establish myself here now in Europe, and I perform almost full time, which is really what I love to do. I have a coaching company for musicians where we help professional development tools to help them establish themselves as working professionals. The freelance creatives have a lot of common struggles that we work with them on. And additionally, I'm releasing original songs that I wrote during the pandemic when we were all locked down. I had lots of extra time. So yeah, that's been a whole new journey too, is kind of establishing myself as a pop singer too.
Wow. So let me slow you down a little because you just said a whole lot there that I want to touch on. So Michelle, your musical style is a combination of your classical musical training as well as growing up singing country and worship songs. I find that just amazing how you use that. And are you applying that today? Can you tell us a little bit about the music that you're releasing now?
My dad played drums in a country band, and I think, just music goes on all the time in our home, and I can sing every lyric to every country song from the 90s, so I don't know, it was just something that was always in my life, and I think you don't often appreciate what you have because you just think it's normal for you. So for me, it was always there, it was always on, and I think that obviously is going to influence your artistic creative soul and come out in different ways. And I sang in church for a long time with different teams, different bands. So then I think the combination of the classical training, it just kind of fused and then became this unique kind of sound that I didn't really know what box to fit it in. When you release music, they say, what genre are you? And I was like, well, I don't know, because there's faith parts to the lyrics, but also it's not really something you would call CCM. So it was just kind of about finding my own way.
Yeah. And I know your songs have been described as having a pure and clear voice, as well as having warm strings and synthesizers fused with classical melodies. And that just, I love when we hear about new musicians who come on the scene and are able to release things that, especially when they've worked on them for, so long, or it's a culmination of everything that leads to this one thing. And before you know it, you have a new sound. And, when we, as people who go through things, we use music a lot of times as a emotional tool. And you have a new song, Let Me Heal. So I think that touches on something that a lot of people go through. That's grief. Do you want to tell a little bit about that, how you've used that? Tell us about that and your experience.
Before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about emotional healing and how people can take care of themselves emotionally. And personally, I come from a very strong family, community mindset, farmer background. So I think there's an element of, grit your teeth and push through and get her done. And, life is hard, but we work harder. And so I definitely have that drive in me. But it came to a point where the drive, the sheer force wasn't enough. And so then I thought sometimes people need to just acknowledge when things aren't okay. And I find in the Psalms actually that there's a lot of honesty with when things are not going well. And I think sometimes faith based people will say too quickly, like, just put a smile on and keep going. And it's like, well, you can't ignore when you have a bleeding arm, for example, physically. We can't ignore it when there's a wound. So if there's an emotional wound, I think that needs attention and time to be dealt with properly. And for me, like the process of composing, creating, sitting at the piano and letting what was in my heart come out just in my own private time helped me kind of shape these songs that I'm now releasing.
Amazing. That's the stuff that makes good songs, good music that we can relate
Yeah,
to, it's amazing how a song can take you from a feeling to another place, or when you're feeling something, help you to actually deal and experience that. And I love what you said about sometimes you can't just use force or grit your teeth and do it, because if you don't deal with it, it pops up
exactly.
later and it can really wreak havoc in your life. And so, I worked with kids and I work as a mentor now, and I help people with their struggles and challenges. And so many times it's this unpacked, unprocessing, of the thing that they went through. So I use music as an emotional tool, and I advise people to tap into that. So we're so glad that you're doing things like you're doing with Let Me Heal. It can help people face their experiences head on. This song is going to help you to find healing, right, and pass through that grieving that you're maybe trying to avoid or going through despite your best efforts. So I love that. So you have a clear vocal tone, and the piano. It's such a great match. So again, I urge you listeners, listen to Michelle Lynne. Michelle, where should they find you? I know that this new single came out. Let Me Heal. It came out in March. What is the best route? Let's give listeners that information right
Yeah,
up front.
definitely. Well, I think the first place to hear it is right here on Power 98.5. But if you prefer to listen to it with your phone, you can find it on Spotify or Apple Music, also iTunes, Deezer. I think every major streaming platform is carrying it.
Wonderful. Now, let me ask you, in terms of finances, because as a musician these days, it's not that you're going to try to sell your CDs to make a living.
Who has a CD
Music is
player, right?
available. Yeah, music is available
Yeah.
online, for streaming. How do you feel about that? Is that to you? Is that a positive thing, or is it more
Yeah,
difficult?
that's a great question. I think a lot of freelancers, which I am, have to face these things, and we don't learn them in school. At least I didn't 10 years ago when I was studying in university. And I had a friend who said once, nobody told me when I was in school that I would become a product that I need to sell. How do you present yourself as an artist? How do you sell the music, as you're saying? How do you invite people to, come to your concerts and all of these things? Like we learned how to play our instruments really well, doing a master's in piano performance. That was the extent of it. So it's been a journey of learning about something like a portfolio career, different income streams. For me, I taught 35 piano students almost full time for the last 5, 6 years, just to have that stability of income while looking for other opportunities to perform. But just so that the pressure wasn't reliant upon the creation of the art. And I know Elizabeth Gilbert talks about that in her amazing book, Big Magic. I'm sure you've read it. And she says it's important to not
Mm.
put all the pressure financially onto your art, because then that becomes, yeah, an uncomfortable feeling that's associated with your creation process. So, in the Fearless Artist, which is our coaching company, we really encourage musicians like to think widely about possible income streams, minimum five, and it can come from areas that aren't music related and that has nothing to do with your worth or value as a musician. I think there's been a lie
Mm.
told to musicians that unless all of your money comes through music, it's because you're not, quote, good enough. But I think that's just a little bit ridiculous, because other professions will happily do things like investments or stocks or Airbnb or real estate, and it doesn't at all take away from the fact that they're doctors and accountants. So why should it take away from the fact that we're a musician if we, do something on the side as well? So I don't know. I just think creating stability in your life is a really wise thing to do. And then within my music career, I have multiple different, income streams like performing. I still teach. I will give coachings. I'm now coaching on social media for musicians quite often, helping people build a brand. And I recently got hired at 2 universities in the Netherlands to teach entrepreneurship skills to musicians, which I think is incredible. It's so important to help give them a platform for the future, to start to prepare their future.
Yeah, that's so good. That's wonderful. And it's needed, right? Because the whole industry has changed, and it is something that you need to do, right? You have to know how to market, you have to be a marketer, you have to be a promoter. You have to have technical skills to know how to manage not only your schedules, but your
Yeah.
time. And I think that is what you do in your business, right? So the Fearless Artist helps artists learn how to organize their life. Is
Yeah,
that
we
right?
definitely work on, life skills like time management, energy management is a big one for our clients because they are usually completely overworked. They're juggling families and gigs and administration and building your own website and a lot of skills that they weren't taught necessarily how to do. So it's all of that information overload. But then we also help them on the emotional health side of things where, as an artist, we deal with rejection or self criticism or, competition, comparison. Social media has made a lot of these more negative things very possible. So we kind of deal with both of those sides, the business side and the emotional side, to create this whole artist who is what we call fearless, meaning you don't let fear stop you from taking opportunities. Of course, all of us still feel
Right.
fear, and it was, I felt fear releasing my songs, for example, because you're putting a part of yourself out into the world. But if that stops you, if you become your own ceiling, that's really where the tragedy is, because then your artistic voice isn't being released. And I know that's for you too, as you're an author, you've released books. I mean, you've had to overcome a lot probably of that inner doubt and say, I know that this message needs to be heard by people, so I'm going to put it out there. You overcome a lot of resistance too with that.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing that. I am an author and I have this book, Emotional Strength Explained. I put this out a year ago, and it's a self help tool where in 30 days people can use this, and it really helps them get to that next step. Maybe they're not ready to divulge what's going on with them to another person or invest in themselves in for therapy, but it's really a great tool that helps them to get emotionally strong while understanding what is going on with them. I've had people use this in specific instances, such as people who wanted to change their gender. I've had people use this if they were looking to make a job change. I've had people use this if they were working on issues with themselves personally. It's really amazing that we all are kind of working toward that same goal of self improvement and wellness while being our true self and being authentic. My other book, though, is a book for kids, and the same idea. It helps the kids understand what they're doing. It gives them encouragement. I've had caregivers use this with them because it's ages 5 to 7, and it really helps them to understand their behavior and become more resilient. So again, I've got other projects in the works. They're coming out. I have a Power Your Life program that helps people with personal and business. But I know for artists and celebrities, there's a lot of things that they face. They face mental health issues because there is that intense pressure and scrutiny, and that leads to depression, it leads to addiction, it leads to so many things, and it makes it hard for them to even maintain relationships because it can be challenging. You have a busy schedule, as you say, they're overworked, and then they end up not trusting, right? Because you have these people and different pressures that come from different areas. I don't want to say all managers are non-trustworthy, but I mean it's they have more on their shoulders, I think, than someone else leading a different lifestyle. But so the Fearless Artist is, you have a website as
Yes.
well. Where can
The
people?
fearless artist
Yeah.
mastermind.com. You can also find us on Instagram, where we just release a lot of content about different topics, the business side and the emotional side, a lot of things to get you thinking. But what we find the most with our clients is that people have big ideas and they don't necessarily know where to start, and because of the time being so scarce, it's easy to start overthinking and then not make that first step. So we really, we set up
Mm.
strategies. We set up a clear mastermind is people are checking in. There's accountability. There's community. And to your point about, celebrities having that intense scrutiny and relationships, that's where I think having a very small core group of people that you can trust and be open with is so crucial. And I think I've learned too, I've always been someone who's had like 1,000 best friends. I get along with a lot of people and I'm happy to see them and I'm happy to talk and chat. And then, through the pandemic, through a series of events, my circle got really small. And that was scary at first because I thought, I'm used to having to update 50 people on my life. And then all of a sudden I've got 4. But I've taken such a joy in knowing who my people are. And I am faithful to them and they are faithful to me. And we can share real life and have that true support that you can really count on.
Yeah, the pandemic has shifted our world and changed it. Some things are for the better, I think, because it made us all kind of put the brakes on and realize what was going on in our
Yeah.
life and make some changes. But now, as you say, we come out of it. We want to get back into the way the world used to be. And so, for an artist who might be, they have this music that they've been working on, but they're not touring, they're not, going out and producing CDs and selling. So they would probably really benefit from the Fearless Artist. With you have motivational tools, you help them to fast forward, you have workshops and obviously coaching. But I love what you said about having that small group to be
Yeah.
accountable with, right? Because oftentimes you really don't know who you can trust. And, I'm sure we've all been burnt, one time or another, you find out the hard way, but it's really great to have a tool like that. And I have a couple referrals I'm going to
Oh,
send you,
that's
by the
fantastic.
way.
No, I mean, I have a good friend of mine, and she
Yeah.
was sharing with me. She has an album she wants to make, and she doesn't know how to get started, or she starts to get stuck in things like self doubt or fear. And, we just started a group with 5 women, mid-30s. They're all busy. They've got these plans, and the synergy, the encouragement, the motivation that comes when we get them in a room together and we say, okay, let's talk through this. What are you thinking? What is your strategy? What are you working on? Where did you get stuck this week? Okay, you said you wanted to do this and it didn't happen. What's the why behind that? We're like an anti-toxic, anti-shame small group, and it's just about getting to that deeper root, and usually it's tied to some kind of fear. Like, oh, I said I wanted to reach out to some labels and see if they would record me and I didn't. Well, was it a time issue? Because I think that's
Mhm.
about like a 30-minute task. So really it was probably tied to you worrying about rejection, or that you think you're not good enough, or that you're comparing yourself to someone else that you saw on Instagram late at night when you were doom scrolling. So we really unlock that key point underneath and say, no, this is not a time issue. You need to believe in yourself, and you
Mhm.
cannot be your own ceiling. If you're going to get the no, let it come from someone else, not from yourself. You got to stand up for yourself and be your own advocate here, because your voice matters and what you want to share matters. And, we met on Instagram. The platform, the availabilities that we have to thousands of people through our phones is phenomenal. People that we
Mhm.
have good conversations with, that we will click with, who understand us. There's just so much potential, and I think that is a huge positive of social media that gets lost when people are so negative about the toxic effects that can happen.
Yeah, you're right. And that's, I love that too. Stop doom scrolling. Don't read the
Exactly.
comments. It's true. Like, one of the things that on a personal side, I'll share a little story. I had been I relied on my technical abilities and I always prioritized my career. And so deep down, I had this desire that I wanted to help people. And so I tried to help the people I worked with, and it wasn't a great match. So these jobs I would hold, it wasn't fulfilling. And so when I finally was brave enough to step out with my book, with my story, I was able to tap in, and I met with some amazing women. We connected, we had that synergy that you mentioned, that that I don't know. It's a real, you talked about synergy, you talked about encouragement, but it's a way that you can be real and
Yeah.
be authentic. And it really helps when we can leverage one another. And it happens, you know. You don't have to sit there alone and with your, you know, all your overthinking and your self-doubt. And you know, I think artists a lot of times, they either believe that what they have is great and it's going to succeed, and they just go with it, but they don't have that support that they really need, right? Because then it leads in self-destruction. I don't know how else to
Yes.
say it. Like, I've seen it happen. Or they give up, they end up giving up their musical dream, and then people are denied of their
Yeah.
talent. So yeah, so I think the freelance artist is a great way that musicians, aspiring musicians, can you know, get to that next step and get their music out there. So let me ask you, so in terms of, you said something that is just, it warmed my heart, that you perform full time. Um, tell our listeners a little bit about how you got to do that.
Yeah. So I have my own concert series here in Maastricht, where I live, and it's focused on chamber music. So that has violinists and cellists and alto or violists who will come, and we'll do just the standard classical repertoire. And that's been going on for 5 or 6 years now. And through that, I've been able to connect with just incredible artists internationally. So just in March, I had some friends from Paris come up, which is only 2 hours away by train. So as a Canadian, that's just still insane to me that you can so quickly get to all the capitals of Europe. Um, just tomorrow, I'm performing with some great string players in Amsterdam. So I'm heading up there. I was there yesterday for rehearsal, you know, 2 hours in the car and you're there. And then what's really started happening was I created this really beautiful roster of personal friends that I get to play with. And then I started getting invited out to where they live. So in Germany and Cologne and Brussels and Paris. And so it was just this really beautiful project that's been growing. And then additionally, I got picked up by Candlelight Concerts, which is a worldwide organization. They're in 150 cities now worldwide. They started 3 years ago. And the whole concept is creating kind of easy classical music programs for a wide, younger audience. So most of the people coming are 25, 30, 35. And I now perform for them, I think, in 20 different cities around Europe. So I'm really all over France, Belgium, and the Netherlands.
Wonderful. I love that success story. I love it. Now, did you have to go overseas to pursue your dream? What was the reason
Yeah, that's a great
behind that?
question. So I finished my master's in Montreal, and then I did a 1 year artist diploma, and then the next step was really to continue academia and do a doctorate degree, which a lot of my colleagues were doing, or you know, jump over and go to Europe. And so I had some friends who were doing a semester abroad in Austria, that kind of thing, and that was kind of piquing my curiosity. And then I had a lot of friends who stuck it out and did the doctorate, finished when they're 30, and they don't necessarily have a job waiting for them. In fact, most of them didn't have a job waiting for them. So I thought, okay, do I want to stick around for 4 or 5 more years and write a thesis? I didn't have a thesis topic in my mind, you know, so I knew I would just be kind of forcing myself to pick something. And I don't know, it just felt like maybe not, but I was scared because to get a job on faculty in North America, it's very common now to need a doctorate degree. And even my friends with doctorates were applying to hundreds of different institutions and not necessarily getting any bites. Um, so yeah, I just took the risk and moved over here. And then what I love about being here is again how quickly I can get to other cities. So I'm an hour from Brussels, I'm an hour from Cologne, 2 hours from Paris, Amsterdam. So I feel very central and very privileged to be able to travel so much. Um, and of course, I miss my family, but I think I see them just as often as if I was based in somewhere like Montreal because they're in West Canada. And so they're super far away no matter where I live.
So in doing that, that took real honesty. That's not something that a lot of people would necessarily be
Yeah.
able to do. Um, what do you think contributed to that? You being able to take a look, an honest, hard look, and make such a decision, knowing the risks involved. What do you think? Did you have good support with your family, with your faith, or was it, you think it's just something you're born with? Tell
Yeah,
us
that's a good
about that.
question. So for me, community has always been huge. I've always had this group of close knit friends. So I think seeing other people go to do a semester abroad, it kind of gave me vision for what it could look like. My family has always been extremely supportive of me pursuing new opportunities. And I think what I also have always done is I'm the kind of person where if there's a pool of cold water, I don't jump in. I tiptoe my way in and I'm like the whole time. I'm like, no, 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 I don't want to do this. So I think I did that with my trip to Europe. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go for 2 years. My apartment, I'm going to keep it in Montreal. I kept my grand piano. I kept all my stuff in storage. I'm like, I'm coming back. So in my mind, it was this way of like
Mhm.
protecting myself. And then
Mhm.
only once I got here and kind of started to figure it out, then I was like ready to let go of the old life. So I think there was that. I don't know. And some people would say that that means you're not jumping fully in, but I think you have to have your own way to kind of coax yourself into scary unknown situations, and that for me is what works. I'm always kind of tiptoeing my way into a new thing, with these song releases. I'm like, well, who am I to be like releasing pop music? I'm a classical pianist. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just do one song and see what happens, and then we'll see, how I. So I don't know, but I think that there's nothing. We shouldn't criticize the process, because the point is that you're getting there. And definitely my faith. As soon as I moved over here, I found a church community, and then you just have a tight knit group of people who are supportive and encouraging and are there for you weekly, and you have new friends. And I know a lot of expats struggle to make friends, and so for me that was just like a really easy way to feel connected. Quickly started singing on the music team, so I just found my people. Joined an expat group of women who are all internationals. Again, you just find people who are similar, and I think that made me feel more and more safe to stick it out. And then now, now I'm like, why would I leave? I live this fairy tale life.
Right, right. Well, and I love how you shared candidly with us about that. Those taking those steps. It's very similar to any decision that one wants to make. If it's a hard choice, or you're not sure, maybe you're comfortable and you don't want that discomfort, but you can apply that same principle to any change. And in my book, even I do that. You take a honest look. That's the first step. Then you work on those areas, in that 30-day time frame. That gives you the courage, the steps. You learn about yourself, and you begin to start to make the changes while still, I'm not saying if you want a new job, you're going to leave that job right now, but you can take the steps to make new connections, to get new certifications, or to, there's many different ways that you can make the changes to get where you are. And I think the way you've described it really does show it in such a way. And again, you still made it sound easy. I don't think it's that easy, but I'm happy for you that you're living this fairy tale life. And you're getting to perform full time. Now you're releasing pop songs. And again, I feel like, you have, tell us about your future
Yeah.
plans. What can we expect from Michelle Lynne releasing one song at a time?
That's a great question. So much has changed in the last couple of years, that in terms of plans, I don't know. I've kind of just, Candlelight started just a year ago, and that completely changed the course of my life. I got these 2 university jobs that also changed everything. I stopped teaching private lessons. So what I've learned, I think, is that things can change very quickly. So I'm learning to just be prepared for any opportunity. I want to make sure that I have the capacity. So I'm thinking about things like energy management, time management, keeping my people close. Deanna Petrie is my co-founder in Paris for the Fearless Artist Mastermind. And so I joke about this, like this life that I have. Of course, all of the difficulty things. I've done the emotional coaching. I've gotten the counseling. I have my best friend who knows like the real struggles that we talk about. And as to your point about being honest, I think a lot of people don't want to be honest. It's easier to just kind of live in denial and say it's fine, or bury the pain, or bury the issue, and then not ever come through that. So I don't know, through all of these ways, what I think is I'm preparing for any possibility. People always say, when are you going back to Canada? I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't have a plan to. I know that you reap what you sow, and I feel like I'm reaping right now from a lot of hard years of sowing where I wasn't visible and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't have these amazing opportunities available to me. So I think I just want to keep building what's in front of me, and keep pursuing opportunities, and meeting great people, and sharing what I've been given to share.
Yes. Well, I love that. So energy and time management. If you're an artist out there and you like what you heard today, you like Michelle's story, and you have dreams that you are ready to consider more seriously, listen to this story, listen to her advice to, keep in mind that you'd like to be prepared for what is coming. I know Michelle's new song, listen to that captivating single. It's going to help you to find that path forward despite any difficult circumstances. So Michelle, thanks so much for sharing all this wonderful advice and your story, and we can't wait to see what happens next. So Michelle, is there anything else, something you might like to share with aspiring artists?
Well, first of all, I've really enjoyed this conversation, so thank you. I would just say, we mentioned a little bit about there's such a journey from getting an idea in your heart out into the big, scary world. And in order to be found, you need to be seen, which means you need to be visible, which means that you do have to become comfortable with the idea of, the light on you and the Instagram posts about you and people talking about you. And a lot of people want to shy away from that attention, but attention is how careers are built. So, if you have good boundaries and you can protect your personal self from that public eye, as a creative artist, you need to be comfortable with the idea that your art needs to be seen and that you need to be seen. And you can't be discovered if you're hiding, because there are people out there who need what you have. If you didn't tell us about your book, then who knows how to buy it? Who knows where to find it? And these are tools that we've been given to help people. My music is out there to help people and to minister to them. So to any artist struggling with that, I would just say, baby steps. Start small. There's nothing wrong with taking little steps into the cold water. And eventually, as you continue, you're going to realize you're capable of so much more.
Yes, that's true. That is very true. So if you're an artist, if you have music, if you have a dream that you would like to, and I met someone last week who he has such tenacity, and he's 18 years old. He is a performer. He was telling me that Michael Jackson is his idol that he looks up to, and to see that in a young person, I can't wait to see. I think I want to interview him, so I'm gonna bring him on. But that, to take that and be able to listen to your story and hear your advice, it's really going to impact others. And Michelle, I want to thank you for this time. So listeners, the Fearless Artist Mastermind, you can find this online. You can use the free tools that she has out there on Instagram. She is obviously available for different coaching services, workshops. You can read the testimonials for the Fearless Artist as well. You can find her. I love this Candlelight series that you have out there in 20 cities, so people can look that up. And that's definitely in our age group. We definitely are looking forward to this. I can't wait to see.
Thank you so much. All of my concert dates are on michellelinnepianist.com.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. Keep us posted, and we're glad to have you.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed.